One of the things that we've talked about when we're planning these programs is, what sorts of topics we put up for discussion and everything. And I guess this year we've come to the conclusion that we need to talk about a few more things besides CWD and production, and deal, move off into some of the other areas that are probably of great importance to us but never get discussed. And one of our directors had brought up the idea about discussing mental health and life on the farm. And speaking from someone who's gone through a lot in the last 6 months, I can certainly say that there is a place for recognizing and dealing with mental health issues on your farm. With that and a lot of other thoughts in mind, we have invited John Macfadyen to speak to us today. He is the Executive Director of the Mobile Crisis Center, and he's going to give us a short presentation on mental health and life on the farm.
Thank you. In 1989, the Ministry of Agriculture, they recognized the importance of providing a range of services to rural families and farm families. And the Farm Stress Line was initiated and funded by the Ministry of Agriculture. It was located out of the Ag Knowledge Center in Moose Jaw. In 2012, the Ministry of Agriculture, they contracted with Mobile Crisis Services, and we're a Saskatchewan nonprofit, and we're located in Regina, Saskatchewan. And one of the reasons they made the move from managing the Farm Stress Line themselves, which is a 1-800 toll-free number for the province, was that Mobile Crisis Services had a proven expertise in crisis intervention. We were a Saskatchewan nonprofit, and we're currently in our 45th year of operation. The key thing, though, was that we could provide services to callers and respond to them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have staff in place that are able to respond to any type of crisis that's self-identified by the caller. Crisis intervention services. Crisis intervention is immediate and short-term psychological care aimed at restoring individuals in crisis back to kind of an equilibrium. Crisis workers are trained to address any type of self-identified crisis that the caller may have. Mobile Crisis Services has 7 different funders. We have funding from the Ministry of Health, from United Way, from the Ministry of Agriculture, from the City of Regina, from a couple of different Ministry of Health portfolios, and so we're able to address multiple program areas. So crisis workers can address whether it's a situation of mental health, whether it's stress, anxiety, depression, suicide ideation. In Regina, we're contracted by the mental health clinic to provide after hours to for the mental health clinic on weekdays and 24 hours on weekends. And crisis workers are able to do suicide risk assessments. They address situations with RCMP or city police in regards to completed suicides, tragic events. They address situations of family conflict or domestic violence. We're one of the designates in the province for doing what's called an emergency intervention order, which is an order that can provide some safety and allow domestic violence victims to remain in their own home. So along with the RCMP, the police, and the 3 different mobile crisis services in the province, we're able to apply for emergency intervention orders. We address situations of family conflicts, like it doesn't have to deteriorate to situations of domestic violence. So we address situations of conflict within the family, whether it's a teen-parent conflict or a conflict between the parents. We address situations of seniors' deteriorating health, abuse and neglect, relationship issues, parenting issues, addictions, whether it's a gambling addiction, an alcohol addiction, substance abuse, or drug abuse. Mobile Crisis Services also runs the 1-800 Problem Gambling Helpline for the province of Saskatchewan. We address situations of bereavement or situations of tragic events, whether it's the death of a loved one due to, could be a traffic accident, could be sudden death of an infant. We address situations of custody. The workers need to be very knowledgeable about the different provincial regulations in the province, as well as we frequently deal with custody situations. Workers are also officers under the Child and Family Services Act, so they're skilled at doing investigations, whether it's regards to assessing whether something is a child welfare protection issue or not, and they're skilled at doing investigations with the RCMP, with the city police in relationship to child abuse, physical, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, or neglect of children. They also deal with youth in crisis, whether it's with suicide ideation, whether it's bullying, relationships with parents or peers, and they also address situations regarding financial struggles and stress that's involved with that. What can you expect when you call the farm stress line? The hardest part is picking up the phone and making the call. Crisis workers will listen to you about what's worrying you. They will help you tell your story. They'll get you to provide information about your current situation and past similar situations. They'll also get you to identify what your current supports are, whether those are professional supports or whether those are family supports. They will assist you. They'll assist as far as looking at trying to identify what's worked well in the past and what's currently working well. They will help you determine what needs to be addressed and what doesn't have to be addressed immediately. They will help you also determine what you have control over and what you don't have control over. They will problem solve with you and identify alternatives to move forward. Mental health and farm stress. Since June of 2017, mental health and farm stress has become a more acceptable conversation in the province of Saskatchewan. Unfortunately, this was due to the death of a farmer from suicide in June of 2017. This conversation was moved forward by different organizations in the province, Do More Agriculture, Ridges Health out of Saskatoon, and the Farm Stress Line. These conversations continued at agriculture forums in Regina, Saskatoon, Weyburn, Yorkton, and organizations that work with and for farmers like Farm Credit Corporation and APAS also promoted these conversations by funding these talks. We all have mental health. Our mental health is good when our thoughts are positive and our relationships are good. Our mental health is not so good when our thoughts are negative, emotions are unpredictable, and our relationships are stressed. Stress impairs our ability to think, problem solve, and distracts us from our day-to-day tasks. Stress can come from equipment breakdowns, weather, crop decisions, decisions with ranching, finances, physical health, or issues with farm support workers. Stress can also come from domestic issues with a spouse, children, extended family, and illness in the family, an accident, or a traumatic event. When farmers are distracted and stress levels get too high, farmers are more likely to make poor farming decisions and poor personal decisions. At a Christmas gathering, my brother-in-law told me he didn't realize how stressed he was till he retired from farming. Calls to the farm stress line. There was 320 calls to the farm stress line during the last fiscal year. Here's a bit of a sample of the different types of calls that we receive. Unknown male calling stressed about his son wanting to double the amount of land they owned. Concerned this may put the farm at risk, caller stated this was causing him a lot of stress and he was having problems sleeping. Grandma calling, as her grandchild was scared to return home and not knowing what to do. Unknown male called, and he struggles with ongoing anxiety and depression. That struggle has been more difficult due to the pressures from family around decisions he has made about his will and succession planning. Farmer calling from his tractor during harvest, and this was in October 2018, with thoughts of suicide due to financial pressures. Unknown female who found her husband standing unresponsive, worried about dementia. Unknown female calling, stating earlier she was not feeling safe and intended to take all her sleeping pills, feeling under pressure due to decisions around the rental of a section of land and relationship issues with a current and an ex-spouse. When you're calling the farm stress line, it can be any crisis where you're maybe looking for a second opinion, or you're struggling with trying to resolve something with a relationship issue with the spouse, or if it's something you're feeling uncomfortable in going to your own support network and talking with them about. So it's what's putting you under stress. It's your crisis, and so any self-identified crisis, you're welcome to give us a call. Mobile Crisis Services and the Farm Stress Line was invited to do a presentation to the House of Commons Standing Committee on Agriculture and Agri-Food in October of 2018. They were studying the mental health challenges faced by Canadian farmers, ranchers, and producers. We were only one of many organizations making presentations from across Canada. Saskatchewan challenges that were identified was creating awareness of the services that are available, reducing the stigma of mental health and asking for help, and increasing access to services for those in rural Saskatchewan. Farm Credit Corporation produced a great resource booklet called Rooted in Strength that provides information, tips, and real-life stories about mental health and mental health struggles. This is another step in reducing the stigma, promoting awareness. I brought today a pamphlet for everybody that they could take with them. Crisis intervention is only one ingredient in building safer and healthier rural communities. And sometimes it's not necessarily that it's you that have the issue yourself and needing help, but you may have somebody in your own support network or a friend who you encounter that has an issue and they need some guidance. So they can be referred to the Farm Stress Line, or you can call on their behalf and get some direction for them. Thank you very much for this opportunity to talk about Farm Stress Line.